Hi, I'm Byron Lyles, and I'm a third generation in Bonita Springs, and I'm here with my cousins Frank and Ronnie. They're both third generation also.
All right, my name is Frank Lyles. Born in Fort Myers, brought down here, and so we're all my other cousins a bit. Ronnie here, he's the next to say.
I'm Ron Lyles, and I've lived here for generations, just like the rest of the cousins. And believe it or not, I'm the baby of the bunch. We were all born in Lee Memorial and lived here all our life. So, in fact, our parents lived here all their lives. So.
Yeah, my father was born here. Your father, Frank's father, was born here. I won't say my mother was because she was a young kid when she came here.
About the 1902 was my mom's side.
Strickland,
and
yeah.
Strickland. The other one was 1896, right? I think
96,
the other
97,
family came to Bonita.
So we're long-time residents.
But the three of us are within a year of each other. Frank's the old man. He's 74. Ronnie and I are 73. I'm a month older than Ronnie, and we were babies together. And we've been together all of our life. Had a few adventures in Bonita.
Gary was the oldest, but he still wasn't more than a couple of years.
Yeah, Gary was a year and a half older than
Frank.
and I
Yeah.
think. And so he's about a year older than Frank.
All right.
And so we're all within reasonable distance of each other.
Well, we only had one high school in Bonita, and our parents graduated from the school on Dean Street. And then in about 1958 or 59, I think they knocked it down to about the 8th grade, and then they put us on a bus going to Fort Myers.
Actually, before 59, the school gradually had dwindled down to nine grades.
Yeah.
By the time we were getting close to the 9th grade, and the year we were supposed to go in the 9th grade, we went to Bonita School for 2 or 3 weeks, and the superintendent of schools decided to send us to Fort Myers School instead of Bonita School. And so we went up for orientation.
Yeah, he loaded us on a bus in Bonita. Well, he took us up to Fort Myers High School, dumped us out. And at that time, that was the only high school in Lee County.
Yeah.
Was Fort Myers High, and even way back then, they had over 1,000 students. Yeah. We were totally lost for about a week.
I think all the high school, with about 38 of us, went from Bonita to Fort Myers.
Yeah.
And then we made one big stop. I was down Coconut Road to a village of Coconut, and there was probably 8 or 9 people lived there. And
the Johnsons and the Weeks. We pick up the Johnsons and
Weeks, yes.
And Coconut. And then we stop in Estera and pick up a couple of kids in Estera. And as somebody lived near Moolock Creek, we'd stop there, right by Nature Boy's house.
The only, what was it, the name of those things crossing the road when we was picking up? Fiddler crowds. Every morning when we went to pick, you could not see the road, the top of the road from the little, now.
On Coconut Road, yeah.
Coconut Road, I haven't seen one of those in 30 years, I don't think. There were just thousands of them things. You'd have to slow down and blow the horn, but it wouldn't work.
Yeah, we'd turn around right in front of Frank Johnson's house on a flat. Have to hope that the tide was low, so the bus could turn around.
And I think all the families there were all making their living by
Fishing.
Yeah. Which was in the Johnsons, they did.
And you remember the year that we had a big flood? It was about the first year we went to Fort Myers High. It must have been, it had to be in the, well, maybe it was in the fall when the hurricane season or something. They had water across US 41. We drove in water almost all the way to Fort Myers.
Yeah. I remember that very well now.
It would start right at the north end of Bonita, be water across the road, and it'd last all the way. Esther was flowing across the bridge, and we'd drive all the way up there.
Yeah, it was 2-lane road.
Yeah.
Y'all remember, of course, I always think it's kind of neat to realize that when we were young but old enough to drive, you could go to downtown Fort Myers, and all the way from downtown Fort Myers to the Four Corners in Naples before you saw a traffic signal.
Right.
That was none in between.
And the one in Fort Myers, I don't believe there was a traffic signal till almost right in the middle of Fort Myers.
Right downtown.
Where Martin, now they call it Martin Luther King, is Anderson. Then Anderson and First Street and Cleveland and all merged right there. There was a fountain in the middle of the road, right in front of the Englehart Funeral Home. And I believe that was the first light in Fort Myers.
Yeah, then you could drive all the way to Naples down to Four Corners.
The other thing that was kind of unique, I don't know if y'all experienced it or not, but we used to go to Fort Myers maybe once a week, something like that, as a family when I was real little. And my dad would wave to everybody we met on the way to Fort Myers, and generally he knew who they were. What was amazing to me. And when we would get in Fort Myers, we go down First Street in Fort Myers, and Mom and Daddy know almost everyone we run into on First Street.
Those were the good old days. Now you go down to the grocery store here in Bonita, and you don't see anybody you know.
I can go to a major event, like the Celebrate Bonita, and I won't run into one person I know. Well, Frank, I usually run into Frank.
The only thing is we had to make our own fun because there's nothing anything.
Huh?
I said we had to make up our own fun then because there was nothing for us to do, just get out and walk around Bonita on the weekends and everything.
We had a good time, huh?
Yeah, we did a lot of things.
I don't know about y'all, but when I was little, I lived in a kind of imaginary world. We played a lot of games. Did y'all play with me, or I don't remember, Cowboys? And,
Yeah. I can remember, I tell the story about when we used to get out there when we were kids on the tractor road. Remember the tractor road?
Yeah.
And we'd all get together, me and you and Frank, Gary, and Keith and Charles and all the kids. We'd all meet about the time we woke up and went out to start playing. We went out there one day and started making tracks. I don't know who it was, whether it was me and one of you guys or me and Gary, but I know I was involved in it. But we made tracks like pretend like it was a panther, and when the other kids would show up, it'd be like, look, there's been a panther here.
Yeah.
And before, in a couple of hours, we were afraid ourselves. It's like, man.
We all
there's
get
a
to,
panther.
everybody get to believe in it, even the ones that made the track.
Yeah.
You know why we called it the tractor road, don't you?
Well, I think so, because they cleared out the road. It was clear, they cleared the trees out, but they never did anything with it.
Well, the reason we called it tractor road, though, was that the county worked on the, like Pullen Avenue was paved.
Yeah.
And it was about the only paved road, I believe, and Dean Street and Pullen Avenue. And they would store their road equipment over on Tractor Road. It was not paved, it was a dirt road 1 block off. And they would park that. You remember the road grader? The road grader was one that you pull behind a tractor.
Uh-huh.
And we would play on that. You could turn those big wheels and it would tilt the grader. So,
Yeah, I guess the only roads that were paved when we were kids was like Dean Street, you say, Pullen, Goodwin, and Matheson.
Yeah.
And that's about it.
Yeah.
Dean Street.
I can remember when I was, Barney, you might hit Ronnie, but for some reason, the Lee County, a guy come down from Fort Myers every Saturday, I think, in the summertime, and give us movies. Remember that?
Yeah.
His name was
Park Pygott.
yeah, and he had something to do with all the kids and or what would that be?
Well, he was head of Parks and Recreation for
Right.
Lee County.
And he'd come down to, right now, they tore down the Valencia home, right? Yeah. Which was
The pavilion.
Pavilion. Yeah, they already tore that down. But once a week in the summertime, they'd come down there and bring in a bunch of mitts, and we'd be sitting on the floor and all kinds of places. They'd open up some windows. That's all we had, you know, keep cool or anything.
Well, what was that?
We have to those windows. We'd end up so we get some air in there.
Yeah.
But that's about the only thing Lee County did for the kids in Bonita.
We had Boy Scouts there too.
What?
Boy Scouts at,
Yeah, Boy
at
Scout.
the pavilion.
Yeah, that was a good deal too.
Yeah, I have a little hearing problem.
We had 3 grocery stores. One's Longhorns, Benson's, and Henry. And Henry was the first one that went out of business. And then, of course, Benson and Longhorn stayed there for a long time.
Yeah, and Benson's still there.
Yeah,
under
Benson's still there.
Different ownership, of course.
I always said that we shopped mostly at Benson's because it was on our side of the highway. In other words, US 41. That way Mama could send me to the store. I didn't have to go across the highway. But we lived 7 blocks east of Benson's. But y'all shopped at Longhorns, didn't you?
Mostly, yeah.
I don't know what made the difference.
Yeah.
We didn't.
My dad worked at both places at one time or another.
We didn't have really anything to do for a long time, you know, in Bonita for the kids to do. We used to go down at Williams Road, Pine Ridge Road, going to Naples. They had a drive-in theater there.
Oh yeah, but that came along when we were probably 14 years old or something like that. Yeah, we were almost teenagers. Well, maybe 12, right?
Yeah. And then right there at the corner of that was 41 was I think it was Watermelon place. Right there.
Well, we had the drive-in though, you know, where the Presbyterian Church is.
Oh, yeah.
Bonita Beach Road. Right.
I
Where
forgot
Presbyterian
about
Church
that.
is at right now.
Yeah.
The Presbyterian Church. There was a drive-in theater in Bonita. Yeah, I forgot about that.
It didn't last very long.
No.
You know, we mostly, I don't know about y'all, but I mostly walked to the movies. Me and Gary, I know we would walk, Gary and I would walk together, and we'd sit on bleachers there. I have been there with my parents in a car too, but a lot of times I sat on the bleachers by the ticket booth.
Wait,
Who ran that?
I don't know who the owner was or how long it was there. If I had to guess, I don't think it was probably there over a year. Do you?
Yeah.
Maybe.
It's right where the Presbyterian Church sits now.
But it wasn't there, I don't think, over a year or something.
Yeah. And
we had to make our own stuff when I was growing up, you know? We had the Shangri-La, they had I'll tell them a pool deal. We had a big pool there, and when it was, probably about 5 or 6 of us guys would go there. Most of our cousins, be late at dark, we'd take our gloves off, go running off the field and dive into the pool. That was
well, Lee County didn't give us a pool in Bonita Springs, so we had to make do. You know.
And we went up there that one night and they drained the pool.
That was right. Usually we'd run and jump in. And this time, for the good Lord, watch this time we walked up, except for my cousin Gary, but he stopped for some reason. But we got up there and there wasn't one drop in that pool. So usually we just jumped in, so we really had a...
Yeah, I think Gary went up there and he was first and he hollered that there wasn't any water.
Yeah. Oh, well.
That would have been terrible.
But of course, you know, our main swimming place was the dam and also the trestle. The trestle and the dock.
The dock, yeah.
Well, the trestle and the dock are the same place. You might call it.
Jump off the trestle.
Yeah, where the railroad tracks is now. There's a bridge there, and I'll probably get it wrong, but there was a bridge on the west side of the railroad, and they called it the Bonita. No, what was it?
What is that?
On the railroad, and there was the dock down there on the other, but banana. They brought Cuba.
We called it the banana dock. I don't know if they ever loaded bananas there or not.
But they come in from Cuba, right?
But I know that was the main place where they brought anything in for Bonita originally before
Came by water.
before the railroad. I understand the Wayside Inn was unloaded there.
Yeah.
In pieces.
That was the transportation back then. Water.
Yeah.
That's the reason, like the courthouse was in Everglades City until 1960 because of that. Because Everglades City was
accessible.
Yeah, accessible by water. That was the main place. Then when Donna blew it away, they built it back in Naples.
Yeah. There was nothing from Bonita to Naples, downtown Naples. There was nothing. Not a thing. Nothing on the road. Mockley Road was about the first road that turned off. Yeah. What I had. But we made all our good fun. You know, we did. So we found stuff to do here. We couldn't have anywhere like that.
The Park Pigot, according to my dad, I didn't know Park, of course, but I remember him. He had a Packard automobile. I remember that. He would bring the movie equipment down in the trunk of his car and get us to help him unload it at the pavilion. And according to my dad, Park was one of the few people in Fort Myers that was concerned about what we had for recreation in Bonita. Otherwise, they didn't care, I don't think. They had swimming pools in Fort Myers, and they had Little League baseball. They had everything up there. But Park said he had a special feeling for the kids of Bonita. So he did that on his own time bringing those movies down to us.
Yeah.
And he's the one that started the Babe Ruth Baseball League in Bonita.
Yeah, he was good. You know, you can remember for a short period of time, though, you remember when they used to take a school bus and haul us up to the pool in Fort Myers?
Yeah.
We ride up. Remember
The
we
summer
had
recreation program.
recreation program, yeah. We had those Seminole Indian boys,
Oh,
Bobby
yeah.
and Billy.
Yeah. Did they ride with us? Yeah, they
Yeah.
went to the swimming pool with us. They could swim like fish.
Yeah, they wore those silk scarves around their neck, you know, and all of us had to have one. When
Oh
we
yeah,
You know-
I had 2 or 3 of those. We got them at McCrory's in Fort Myers.
Yeah, right. You know, that's what reminds me. That's something else that the county did for us. They let us use the school bus and take us to the football game.
Oh wow! Every Friday,
Every Friday night.
Fort Myers
Not
Green.
everyone, because one Friday they'd be playing Punta Gorda or somewhere else. But we didn't go up there to watch football.
Oh,
We
no.
just wanted to go there and walk around. But
won't-
that's all we're talking, right?
that and sitting with the girls.
Yeah, talking with a
Or
girl.
watch the cheerleaders.
The what?
Watch the cheerleaders.
Cheerleaders. Yeah, that was the greatest thing. Yeah.
You don't want me to tell them about how you used to walk around?
No, Ron. I said you're not going any further.
We'll leave that one off.
Because we will take all this and tear it up. No, we had a lot of, but you know what? I'm glad to be able to see that we were good kids, so we didn't do anything.
That's right.
We just,
Yeah, we were no murders in the group or anything like that.
yeah.
No?
Yeah, the football games was it was a fond memory of that, you know,
Oh, yeah.
because
The more
always
you
it
talk-
was in the fall of the year. It was kind of cool weather, you know.
And the deal was to sit with a girl.
Yeah, on the
to
bus.
Sit with a girl.
Well, y'all did. I was a late comer on that. Y'all remember the deal about me and my first kiss there on the bus?
No.
Yeah, well, of course, y'all wouldn't remember it. You wasn't as embarrassed as me. But I sat with my first girlfriend on the school bus, and we were up near the front of the bus, and y'all were with your girlfriends in the back of the bus, of course. And Frank came up there and says, "Have you kissed her yet? Have you kissed?"
I wasn't smart. I
said,
didn't do
"No,
that.
Frank,
You're making that
no."
up.
And finally, Frank came up there and he pushed us together.
Was that you and Betty? Or?
No, that was Ann Mosley.
Oh, gee, I
Ann
remember her.
Mosley, yeah. Well, we shouldn't give names here, should we?
She was a pretty little girl.
Yeah.
She lived by the railroad.
Railroad
track.
tracks, yeah. She was in the, what was those, the section houses.
Yeah, I think her dad worked for the railroad. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Moses.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun out playing. You know, there was no East Beach Road. I don't think they started that until 62 or something.
Yeah, something.
No, the East Beach Road was built. I mean, there was an East Beach Road. There was ruts
Ruts,
through the woods.
right. It was the wood.
But there was no road as such until around probably 63 or 4 or something like that.
No bridge at Oak Creek. There was a log across there. It used to be
Right.
a log running across.
They're,
Where the Oak Creek originally had a bridge, like in the teens or the 20s, and it got in the Depression. Boy, it's loud in here.
East Beach Road,
In the Depression, they abandoned the repair of all the bridges on the back roads in Bonita. And you know, Terry Street had a bridge over Lightner Creek.
Okay.
And East Beach Road had a bridge over Oak Creek. And both of those bridges, and then Imperial Street had one over the Imperial River, and all of those bridges were abandoned in the Depression.
you know, there was no roads from East Beach Road. And one of the reasons they used to call it Bonita Springs, that there were about, about 3 or 4 big springs in Bonita. One of them was right down there on East Bonita Beach Road before you get to Imperial, I think
Right
it
at
is.
the cemetery, kind of.
At the cemetery, only a little bit more this way. And Edison and Ford used to come down from Fort Myers, and they'd go hunting out of there.
Yeah.
But there was a big spring there. And it would come this way, Bonita Beach Road. And when it would get almost to the dog track, it'd go under East Beach Road, and it would come out on Dean Street and go down where it come on 041, where you, just before you get to Bonita Beach Road. To where they got a bridge there, but there's nothing, anything
Well, that's
there.
Oak Creek though. Then they
Yeah,
called
at
it Oak
Crum Creek, it would come all the way out and go to the Imperial River.
Yeah.
But it's all going. And we didn't talk about Shangri-La, but they had a big spring.
Oh, yeah.
And
It's
we'd go
still
down there. It's only where 40 Lane Bonita now, 4 lane, right about another 100, 200 feet from that on the north side was a big spring where Bonita Bay's at now. And it come out and went into the river. There's a spring there. And there was a couple of there's quite a few springs, but they went dry, And my grandmother, on East Beach Road now, where the flea garden's right now,
Yep.
my grandmother, and my dad was born right there on East Beach Road. Right there where they're getting in, there's a lot of, they had horses in there and everything in there, but that was, nobody there. It took you forever to get out there, but they were way out in there.
Yeah, I remember the horse pasture across the street from your granny's house.
Yeah, her house was right about where you go into the
Flea market.
flea market right now. And we used to go there on the weekend and everything, had a good time out there.
Now our grandparents, who was your grandparents' brother and sister, our grandfathers were brothers, our grandmothers were sisters. Our set lived on Dean and Imperial Street, the corner of Dean and Imperial Street.
Yeah.
And but for a short while, we know they lived in Henderson Creek in Naples. We don't know why they lived down there, or for quite a while, I guess, because Daddy talks a lot about Henderson Creek. When we were growing up.
I think that's where Daddy was born.
Yeah, and he was born in Lee County though back then.
It was Lee County. But it was in where Collier County is now.
That was before Barron Collier renamed it.
Right.
Yeah. Blue Springs, that was good.
Yeah, something that I think is always interesting to mention too about old times. Not that old either, but back when we were kids, there was one deputy sheriff that took care of Bonita Springs and Fort Myers Beach and South Fort Myers. One deputy sheriff, Billy Sheffield.
Yeah.
And he took care of it probably better than they do today.
Yeah. Before Billy was Carson Acker. Do you remember Carson Acker? And then Billy took over from Carson Acker.
But now we got to let the good pair out. That's that. I was a Lee County deputy sheriff for 8 years. I was a deputy sheriff here.
And actually, when you were a deputy, they were still just the one, right?
Yeah, but I went from the county line up to Gladiola. And Fort Myers Beach was my territory.
Yeah.
And they were always, my duty was, I'd get off at 2 o'clock in the morning, and I'd be on my way home and somebody on Fort Myers Beach. Or that'd be a wreck or something. Oh man, that was terrible. I'd go like this, going to
Nowadays, if you have a little fender bender, there'll be 5 deputy sheriffs show up and 3 fire trucks.
Yeah,
That's what's wrong with the economy.
I'll say that. You know, we had, I don't know when we got ambulance service, but you know, as Tom Rehart supplied the ambulance, he parked it at his gas station.
Ambulance and wrecker.
Yeah,
Right.
ambulance and wrecker.
He had 1 record and an ambulance.
He took care of all the accidents.
Who give us the ambulance for that? I forget.
I think it was Leo Engelhardt, or no, I take it back, Harvey Funeral Home, I believe. Harvey Funeral Home supplied the ambulance. And you remember Harvey Funeral Home was across the street from Lee Memorial Hospital. That doesn't exist anymore.
But yeah, we were lucky. I don't know who gave us the ambulance, but it had to be somebody in Lee County that gave it to us. And
I think it was the funeral home supplied the ambulance. You know, before then, the emergency vehicles came from Fort Myers. I remember the night there was well, I can't remember who it was. It seemed like a kid was run over on the Bonita Beach Road or something. I can't remember. But we were sitting on the White Bridge. You know what the White Bridge is, the Imperial Bridge.
Right.
But here came, it was, really gave me a scare. Here came this ambulance from Fort Myers, and it was from the Harvey Funeral Home. And he was running about 100 miles an hour when he went across that bridge. And we were sitting on the rails of the bridge. And they didn't save whatever they were coming for. I can't remember. I just can't remember the emergency, but we couldn't have been more than 14 if we're sitting on the bridge.
We was probably sitting down there smoking those wine dip crooks.
The wine dip crook cigars.
David Piper used to get them.
Yeah.
Frank would bring them.
Is that how we got those cigars?
I think David, wasn't it David Piper that got you interested in the wine dip crooks?
Yeah, I can remember one of the worst things. It wasn't terrible. We used to have, they had that's been a long time since there was such a thing around, but they had a game warden in this area. You know, people shooting deer and turkeys and all that stuff. Barnes was his name, wasn't it?
Yeah, Ray Barnes.
And one of the big things then, you used to get on the Bonita Beach Road, stopped, you could make a left-hand turn and drive all the way down to Wiggins in your car along the beach, you know. Mm-hmm. And he was always trying to, then they did what they call a turn.
Turn turtle.
Turn a turtle, you know, and he caught some people, put them in jail or tried to put them in jail and all that stuff. So one time we said we were going to make, I don't know if you would have wanted it on, we were going to just make him mad, you know. So, because somebody would always get the turtles and put them in their trunk and close it down, you know, and they'd be back there and anything like that. So we went down to the pass, and when he was down there waiting on us when we come down, you know. I forget who did it, Eddie Morgan or somebody like that.
Was in the
Just
trunk.
before we got there where he was at, we opened up the trunk and put him in there, you know, and he'd kick it with his feet, you know, and we pulled up. We said, oh man, we're in trouble now, you know. And he'd come out, you know, and we opened up that trunk and there's Eddie in there.
Yeah, he didn't like it.
Oh,
Ray
man.
Barnes didn't like that.
Yeah, he didn't like that. Yeah, we had a lot of fun doing that. He didn't mess around with us, but
back then they didn't have to get permission to search your car. You know?
No,
they just tell you open it up, and if you didn't, they might shoot you.
But
yeah,
we probably never got credit for it, but we used to turn the turtles, and you know, we'd never take any more than we could eat.
Right.
And not only that, we would, when the turtles would crawl up, we'd mess around and wait until she laid her eggs before we took her.
Right.
You know,
So
let her lay there.
turn a turtle
We wouldn't
on
take her when she was coming up. It was when she was going back.
Right.
You know, so we were conservationists.
what was those things? Me and you used to cut and sell them at the shell place.
Oh, cypress knees.
Huh?
Cypress knees?
No, no, no.
Oh, the sea oats.
Oh, the sea oats.
Sea oats.
Yeah.
The whole
Yeah.
beach, a lot of them, so we'd cut them off and sell them to the shell place.
Yeah, that was before they were protected back then.
Yeah,
There
yeah,
was
yeah.
a million sea oats on the beach. Not like they are now that they're protecting them, but when they weren't protected, there was millions down there.
Yeah.
But yeah, Frank and I found out that Mr. Saylor paid a penny apiece for sea oats. And so we thought, well, golly, there's a million down there, we would get rich. So we rode our bike down there and pulled a wagon. And we worked all day long. And and of course there's no water on the beach back then. You couldn't drinking water, no drinking water on the beach. We got some on our way down, about halfway down. We stopped at a house and got some water. And got back and we had 300 sea oats. So we got $3. That's $1.50.
Took us all day long.
All day long, yeah. I thought you were talking about the cypress knees. We did that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That was a big venture.
Yeah.
Chopping the cypress. That was down at Oak Creek.
We got rich on that too, didn't we, Ron?
Oh, yeah. Probably made a couple of dollars.
Yeah.
And I can remember when we couldn't, there was no bridge at Pass.
Yeah, yeah.
No pass.
Hickory Pass was, of course, no causeway. The causeway was built in '65.
New Pass, though, where the bridge is now, they didn't build that until 1965,
'65.
somewhere in that. Because I know that's when I was in the sheriff's department. Me and Bill Sheffield pulled people across. That was a good deal.
You remember the Exchange Club used to have a beauty contest and a fish fry down near Hickory Pass. And the beauty contest on the back of a bed of a truck. And we have a mullet, of course.
Can you remember? Can you remember what was called the fish? The soap fish. You know?
Yeah, snook.
Snook.
Yes.
Nobody would eat a snook. They were no good.
We're not supposed to say
I
snook.
caught a damn snook. I don't want
Yeah,
it.
of course, you know what we call them.
There used to be a lot of tarpon, but they're gone.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah, you
gone.
can't
Snook
eat
is gone.
tarpon.
Everything's gone.
Well, Tarpon Bend, that's where it got its name. They caught a lot of tarpon in the Imperial River.
How long's it been since you've seen a garfish?
Oh,
I don't see them.
I haven't seen a garfish in,
30 years?
well, the last time I was at
There
Cypress
used to be
Gardens,
millions
I
of them.
think they have them up there.
Yeah, they had a lot of good
Things you don't have anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are
Like,
y'all running dry?
no.
Hell no.
I'm
About
enjoying
wore
this.
out.
We don't want to stop yet, do we?
Time for your nap. Time for your nap.
Yeah, right. But,
Well, if you want to talk, we could talk about things that we don't have anymore.
what's that?
There's a bunch of them. One of them is whippoorwills. There's no whippoorwills around.
When was the last time you heard a whippoorwill at sundown?
Yeah,
there's
and
nothing.
bull bats. There's no bull bats.
Bull bats and quail. When was the
Quail,
last
no
time
quail.
you saw a covey of
No
quail?
possums, no
Quails.
snow, anything on the road anyway.
We used to, if we were walking through the woods, I'd say no less than 4 coveys of quail would run across the path in front of you. I haven't seen one of those in ages.
No, there's no such thing anymore.
And then guavas. Guavas disappeared from Bonita years ago.
Yeah.
But you remember there was guavas everywhere. Gibby's house,
Everybody had guava
Max
trees.
Swain's house, our house, your house.
Yeah.
Y'all had guavas in your backyard. Ronnie had.
I won't say what happened to all that stuff, but
I will you tell you
No, no.
one thing about my cousin Ronnie, but he was good. He's down in Naples, and his car only had reverse. And he drove his car from Naples to Bonita in reverse.
Well, you lost your forward
Yeah,
gear
when I
on the
went
way
down
down to Naples. The forward gear went out.
Yeah.
I don't know what.
Yeah, I didn't back down there, but I
No,
I
no,
had
you
to-
didn't. You
I had to
broke
back
on you
back.
down there, but coming back, yeah.
Yeah. And of course, it was a Studebaker. Looked the same front and back anyway. So
Yeah,
only he had red headlights.
Yeah, right.
that's
yeah,
probably
that was
what's
good,
wrong
yeah.
with my neck today, you know?
That was
We
good.
were young then.
Turning
Things
around
were a lot
back.
easier. Remember driving on the railroad tracks?
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
You never knew that cars would fit railroad tracks until then.
Did
Your
you
mom
let
and
some of your
dad,
out?
your mom and dad took for the railroad.
Yeah, they worked at the depot
They
for
worked
years.
for the depot
Yeah,
here in Bonita,
shipping
right there
citrus
at
fruit.
Now the
Pennsylvania.
depot, that was an interesting thing we don't have anymore too.
Yeah, I got a big picture of that.
But the
Man.
depot was a lot of fun. You know, it had, especially when we were real young, it had scales there. You could weigh yourself on the scales. They had a dolly that you could push yourself around on.
But there, on that one, you can see I got a picture of that where that the train would come from Fort Myers, and it would pull off on the
Yeah,
side,
sidetrack.
and they'd get pine trees, and, you know, and lift
Yeah.
them up and pull them to a sea mill.
Yeah, they used to get a lot of pulpwood,
I-
and citrus.
I tell a lot
oranges.
of people, I said, "Do you see anything that's really weird around here?" And they say, "No, what?" I says, "In Bonita Spring, there's no trees.
Yeah.
All the big trees are gone. The only trees, pine trees, was they're just branches all over because my grandpa had a sawmill in Bonita, and they cut down every pine tree that they could get to, cypress and citrus. And the reason that not all of them got cut down is that back then they didn't have equipment to get them in the middle of a big pond to cut those cypress trees down. So that's why all the trees, cypress trees and pine trees, there's no big trees in Bonita anymore. And the big ones are ones that they couldn't make lumber out of. So that was kind of a
Yeah,
bad deal.
where my house is, when my brother and I first bought the property out there, which was way out east of Bonita, the remnants of the tree cutting was still there, all the stumps. And there was a man who got those stumps as a business. I understand they make dynamite
Yeah,
out of them.
He did. They'd saw it up.
You know,
Yeah.
the rosin or
make
something
dynamite.
make dynamite.
Dynamite.
But
Right.
he called it stumping. That was his business, and
Right.
he would go out and dig those stumps out. But what Alan and I used to think, my brother Alan, what we used to think about was all that was left was the heart of that pine.
Yeah.
That stump was all that was left was the heart, and it would be that big.
Right, they cut 'em
and
all
just
down.
think how big that pine tree was,
Yeah.
because
They made a good living off
because
that.
the heart is just the very center. Then it has the pulpwood or the softwood around that.
Yeah.
Those pines must have been, I
There
don't
was
know,
thousands of
100
big-
years. They must have been 100 years old when they cut them.
I've got pictures of my grandfather, of my mother's side. Like Barnes said, they're that big around, and they just cut them, you know, and they cut them down and bring out here to the sawmill. He had one sawmill at 041, and where Shannon's used to be. He had one there, that caught big. Now where the guard shed is at, for Bonita Bay, they had another place there where they did their cutting on.
You know the big.
And this last one right down here is at
The
the
big market for the heart of the pine, Florida pine, was the piers in Northeast, like New Jersey and up there, where they made long piers, you know. they used art pine from Florida.
You guys remember when the three of us went to places up there in North Naples and we got some planks from
Yeah.
pine?
Yeah.
That was
It was from a sawmill, and it was a true 4x6.
Yeah.
Be 6 and 4. You know?
Actually,
That was from the wooden
that
barn.
was the barn.
Barns.
Yeah,
And I still
wooden.
got some. I went and got some.
Yeah,
you
I
know,
still got some.
I'll give you a piece of it.
Actually,
but you could not. That thing was in the 1800s, and you cannot right now drive a nail through it. It's pure yellow in there.
They had it cut up in planks where they could move it in pieces about this big.
Yeah.
You remember? And
Yeah.
a piece this big would weigh 15 or 20 pounds.
Yeah, I still got some there at my house.
I still have several pieces.
My grandpa made a lot of put britches on my.
But you know that particular thing, those that wood was cut in the 1800s.
Yeah. Don't
Because
you have
that
some?
barn was there in the 1800s. It was a wooden barn over on Matheson Street.
You got a picture of all the people standing on this side down here on Bonita Beach Road. There's a big sawmill there.
Yeah.
That shows them all standing
Yeah,
up.
that's the
All them
Strickland.
pine trees are that big, and cypress trees. You know, and that was really good deal. I didn't. Well, I was a little young to really see that mill, but I do know I was there for a while before they all cut every tree in there.
And of course, another thing that's not in Bonita is orange groves. You know,
Orange
Bonita
groves?
actually, that was what Bonita was started for, was orange groves. That's what our grandfathers moved here to do, was work in orange groves.
Yeah, there was a lot of groves.
And you remember on Dean Street, there's groves on both sides, solid.
Right.
Solid orange groves.
You remember, excuse me, on Dean Street, there's a guy there, Samples or something? Simon. He had a
Had a
place there, and everybody would
packing
bring their
house.
oranges down there, and he'd separate them and they'd take down to your mom and dad and ship them off on the train.
And originally what they did, they had a dock that's somewhere between Matheson and Imperial Street on the river, had a loading dock where they put them on a boat.
Yeah.
there and to ship them out by boat. But then later on they started shipping it by rail. And the rail came in 23, I think, 1923.
Or I wish I remember where we found that pine cut up. I'd call that lady and ask her if I could go by and get some more of that.
It's in East Naples somewhere off of Pine Ridge Road. Or,
I think so. Yeah, it was on Pine.
what?
It was in Pine Ridge someplace.
Yeah.
Pine Ridge.
Yeah, it was. I'd have to, I might be able to find her.
It was just some acreage
It's just
back there. Where
you look what I got. It was caught in 1886, and it's all pine inside.
yeah.
Oh man,
Solid wood.
solid wood. You couldn't drive a nail right now.
Well,
Could not drill in it.
Yeah, according to Daddy, that was the old regular old barn dance and stuff like that. It was a wooden barn was kind of a central thing for them growing up as kids for entertainment.
We called it Bonita Springs because it had all the springs. Now we should have called it Bonita Pines or something.
There you go.
But
The Whiddens, yeah, they were one of the first families
Yeah.
here. They were here before
Yeah.
our family. And I know my mom and dad used to say that whenever people moved into Bonita, the Whiddens would give them a starting of sweet potatoes.
Sweet potato.
They give them sweet potatoes to set out and grow,
Yeah.
among other things, but I remember they said sweet potatoes. But yeah, the Whiddens, good people.
Oh. Anyway, I'm tired.
Yeah, I'm about out.
okay, I could talk some more, but I'll let us go.